Anyway, here's something for you. There's a town of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Remember, this is Donald Trump's running mate's state, Mike Pence, who's the governor. Anyway, in Lawrenceburg, lots and lots of people are being locked up in a prison there. In fact, in the county, Dearborn County, Indiana, that county sends more people to prison per capita than nearly any other county in the United States. So this guy, this guy here, he was trying to sell 15 oxycodone pills. And, of course, he picked the wrong person to sell it to. He's trying to sell it to an undercover narcotics officer. Now, if this guy, Donnie, who was trying to sell the oxycodone, if he had been caught 20 miles to the east in Cincinnati, he would have gotten probably a maximum of 6 months in prison. In San Francisco or Brooklyn, he would probably gotten drug treatment or probation or both. But in Dearborn County, Indiana, which sends more people to prison per capita than just about any place in the United States, after agreeing to a plea deal, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. 12 years. Why? Well, this county in Mike Pence's state represents the new boom in American prisons. Yeah, there is one. You know, all this talk about releasing people from prisons and trying to get the private prison industry closed down, it never should have happened to begin with anyway. But these new prisons, the ones that are being built in these rural areas to provide people with jobs, they're built in areas that are mostly white, rural, and very, very conservative. And regardless of what Trump and the rest of the fascists say, crime is at one of the lowest it has been in this country. I realize they're fucking murdering each other in Chicago like there's no tomorrow, and for some of them there isn't. But crime overall is at an historic low, and a bipartisan campaign to reduce throwing, what do we got? A couple of million people in prison, more people than any other country on earth, here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. So some Republicans and Democrats in Congress got together to try to reduce this incarceration rate, and they've been successful. Enormous declines in new inmates from big cities, which has been cutting the prison population for the first time since the 70s. In an 8-year period, from 2006 to 2014, annual prison admissions dropped 36% in Indianapolis, 37% in Brooklyn, 69% in LA County, and 93% in San Francisco. Prison sentences, prison admissions. But large parts of redneck, rural, suburban, right-wing America, oh no, shit, no, it's gone the opposite direction. For example, according to a New York Times analysis, prison admissions in counties with fewer than 100,000 people, admissions there have risen even as crime has fallen. Now, why is that? Well, when you open a business, you got to have customers, right? You got to have customers. So in these rural areas where the crime also has fallen, if you wind up being charged with a relatively minor crime, using oxycodone like Rush Limbaugh did, it means you're an addict, but you start out as you're fucking crazy to try to begin with, but eventually you become an addict, and the last thing you need is to be put in prison. That's why in parts of the country where people are a little bit more conscious about this sort of thing, users or sellers, in some instances, are given probation and sent into drug rehab, trying to save everybody's life. Not in these rural areas. Oh, fuck no. They need customers. The prison industrial complex that has now found a new market in these right-wing rural communities. Those counties, continue to send more drug offenders to prison per capita than any place else. And, why, regardless of what the governor of Maine says, crack cocaine addiction used to be centered in the cities. And now opioid and meth addiction are, those two addictions are just ravishing rural communities, especially here in the South. It's incredible. Every time Kathy and I go to one of these little fairs now in the country, and you see the good old boys who are running those rides, every one of them are toothless. Or they have little stubs in their mouth where the meth has just eaten the shit away. I mean, their teeth are gone. They're hollow looking. Poor bastards. I feel sorry for them. But anyway, when the suggestion was made to Mike Pence about, this is crazy, his reaction was, hey, listen, people in local communities decide what the local community laws are going to be. I don't know what the hell that means, but that's how Mike Pence looks at it. So while Donald Trump is the fascist that the right wing has been waiting for, Mike Pence is a little Christian prick whose trails behind him, who scoops up the people that fascism does not completely annihilate and puts them in prison with Bibles.